Okay, hey guys, I'm gonna be doing a rating items tier list. A lot of the items, like all the items are good. So like okay, not gonna lie, these items are kind of bad. But like a lot of these items, depending on the state of the game, it's like the game's all about tempo with radiant items. Let's say you don't have a front line, even like Zezerat's really good. Like Warmogs is a lot more value when you already have your back line. D-Blade is like a lot less value when you already have 3 items for carry. So it's like every game is specific, so I'll try to talk through some of these examples, but the general strength is probably going to be laid out here. Let me just go through and talk about some of them. Like for example, Earth Angel Staff, it's just Radiant Archangel, and it's really broken because not only are you gaining infinite AP, you also start the fight with an extra 45 AP, which is like beyond broken. This is also giving an extra 20 AD on top of the shield, on top of the lifesteal, so Aphelios a lot of times can go infinite. DB is just like the best damage item on Lucian, on Aphelios, on Akshan. But not only that, it also gives you even more AD than the regular one with like no drawbacks. Shroud is good as like a really good utility item if you have like a decent front line already, like a natural front line, such as like Rel 2 or something. But not only that, but it's also if you already have like 2 carry items and you don't really need, let's say you have 2 carry items like Ginsu DB and you want like maybe a BT for Aphelios and you have like a cloak on bench, then going for Shroud here instead of like a Shadow Hodge is actually okay because you can nullify the cloak more readily. It's a little tricky though, thinking about that example actually. Maybe you can play around Akshan as well, but it's just like I'll go through more examples. Zephyr is good as well. This also gives your entire team 15 mana. So like Vel'Koz with Shojin makes it 3 hours to cast if you have Shroud. If you can't find like a Hodge or something, Trap Claw is just a really good utility item. So with Zephyr gives attack speed. This is like 50 HP for everyone. Hodge is just like a really flexible, can be used on every carry. Frozen Heart is generally really good when you're playing Sins, even Diana, if you really don't need anything else for Aphelios or something. But I would prioritize like Aphelios items into Diana. It's also pretty good on Fiddlesticks. It's a faster cast, and Fiddlesticks kind of just sits in their team. It's like kind of like a budget DB. It's not a bad item, but I think DB is slightly better, so that's why it's A tier. TG is also like pretty good. It's actually really good if you already have like items. So like before I continue, actually, let me just like talk about it. So like let's say I'm playing. I'll just do Aphelios because I think a lot of people are familiar with Aphelios. I'll do 2 examples. So I'll do one Aphelios example and the one A-Bomb Vel'Koz example. If my items are like Sunfire Cape on frontline, which is almost like every other game, and then your backline is like Ginsu DB, and then your last item is a BF sword, then going for like a utility item such as Trap Claw, Shroud, Zephyr is actually pretty good. The one example that is different is like if you are high rolling so hard and you already know you can play around Akshan, going for BT for Akshan is fine, and like building like duo carry from the get-go is good. But usually you want to prioritize like one like strong frontline, strong utility, and then carry items. The reason I say the BS sword is important is because that BS sword can easily just go into a GS, it can go into a BT, it can go into a DB. There's a lot of stuff that BS sword can go into, and no matter what, by the end of the game, you're gonna have 3 items for your carry. But for example, if the last item is Belt, which can never really go for an item on your carry, then a lot of the times you actually can just go for like Shadow Hodge or Shadow GS over like one of the utility options. It really is by the end of like by 4-2 Armory, you really want to have all 3 items for your carry available with as much utility and frontline as possible. So like another example, if you're doing like A-Bomb Vel'Koz, right? If you were to have Sunfire frontline, generic Nunu item for your A-Bomb, and then your backline is like Shojin JG, right? If your last item is a tier or a rod, then maybe you can actually just go for a utility item, or maybe not a utility item, but like maybe like a Sunfire Cape. Oh no, you already have Sunfire Cape. Maybe like Warmogs, or Shadow Spark is really good for A-Bomb. Yeah, it really is just about like balancing between frontline and backline. So I hope that example makes sense with the tier. So like another way to think about it, imagine Sunfire, Shojin JG, or Jeweled Gauntlet, and then you have like a Belt. Belt can't really make an AP item, then you're more likely to take Hodge, more likely to take maybe even GS, Rabadons, JG, all that stuff, and just finish off the last item. There are exceptions though, because some of the frontline utility items are not nearly as strong. For example, even if you have a rod, taking like an Earth Angel, you're gonna take it every time. This item is broken. But like let's say it's like Rabadons versus Shadow Bramble. And all the other options are just complete garbage. You probably would still take the Rabadons and just play like a random rod on your Fiddlesticks or something. You just think about like basically when you choose a rating item, you always want to just choose an item that like you kind of want to designate it on someone, right? Like you pick it for a reason. That's why TG is a little weird. A lot of people think TG is like a super good item. I mean, and it is a good item, but most of the time like you wanna either finish off your utility, finish off your frontline, or finish off your backline. Rarely ever is like TG the best choice. It is a good item, but it's not. It's usually like there's usually going to be an item that's better. Also, there's going to be tempo. So another thing is like, let's say even if you don't have carry items, let's say you only have 2 carry items, but you're on a 7-win streak, and right now you have all the DPS, all the backline in the world, like 4 Cannoneer, but your frontline is trash. And like Bramble, honestly, early game when you don't have a unit with a lot of HP isn't going to save that much. Like Zerout is actually good. QSS is like, oh, let me just actually just go through and talk about BIS on every single item. So like this item is really good on Vel'Koz. It's 45 starting mana, so you can actually go to 2 autos to cast. It's like beyond broken. It's the best item is Heimer for sure though. It's Heimer. DB is Akshan Aphelios. You can even do Lucian. DB is Akshan Aphelios Lucian. BT is also Draven, but DB is like okay on Draven, but you don't really need it because flat AD scaling on Draven's not that good because he's already Forgotten. You can easily run 4 Forgotten. This is just a generic utility frontline, like referred to what I was just talking about. Generic utility, generic utility. Three of the best ones. Just keep in mind that this gives 15 mana, so some units actually cast with less, like with 2 less autos, which is really big. Zephyr is really good, gives whole team 20% attack speed, is probably really good in Rangers. TG is just a really good generic utility item. Hodge is same thing as like BT, except you can even put it on Vel'Koz, you can put it on Heimer. It's probably like the most flexible item in the game. Frozen Heart is really good on Diana, it's really good on Fiddlesticks. It also can be played on Pyke. And it's pretty strong early game if there really are no other options. But this is more like a late game scaling. GS is another one of those like late game scalings. If you just need another damage item, you just go for it if there's no DB. TG is like when you already have front and back. Sunfire, it's one of those things where it's actually kind of unique. If your front line's already okay, like let's say you have like a Bramble or a Warmogs, and then your back line already has like 2 items and you have like a BF sword, or 2 items in like a damage item, going Sunfire for a mid game power spike and allowing you to greed to level 8 on 4/5, this item is super good. Even late game, it always does like 5k damage late game. It's really strong. Warmogs is when you're lacking a lot of frontline. Warmogs is just like a straight up better Zero because it scales into late game. IE is just slightly worse than DB, but I wouldn't say it's bad. It's okay on like Lucian Aphelios. I still think DB on Lucian Aphelios is better. It is really good on Nocturne. Runex is another one of those things where it's really strong on stage 3. And it's pretty strong on stage 4, but late game, this item is beyond broken on Akshan. But if you're stuck with like Aphelios with Runex, then it's like not that strong. Akshan and Aphelios both, you want to carry both. Like you can't just solo carry Akshan most of the time. Shadow Spark, this item's like not that good, but it's really good if you're on like a high tempo like 7-win streak, and it's also really good if you're playing A-Bomb. Shojin is one of these things where it's like the item's actually not that good, but it's really good if you don't have, like if you're hopeless for a tier item. For example, if you have like Rod Opener and you slam like Rabadons and you're win streaking, and then you have like Rabadon's JG but you just don't have a tier, you just take the Shojin and now your tier item is saved. And then Redemption is like, it's pretty good on like a Sentinel Aurelia frontline, and it's also really good on A-Bomb. Rabadon's JG are just generic backline AP items. I think the backline AP items are a little bit worse than the backline AD items, just because I think AP right now is a little bit more inconsistent. But there's still really good options if you're missing the last one. But usually like AP items are not that contested. So most of the time you're always going to have like by stage 4 or 2, or by 4-2, which is the armory of stage 4, you're almost always gonna have 3 carry items. So like a lot of times, like I don't really go for it, but sometimes you do. GA is okay. It's primarily used on like Jax. I feel like you can even use it on like Gwen. You can use it on A-Bomb if there really are no other options. The item's not bad. It's just like not that good. Ginsu is I like rarely see myself taking this for like Lucian or Aphelios. The most of the time it's like I'm taking it for Heimer. If I already have like Shojin JG and there really are no AP items, I'll just take Ginsu. It recently got buffed to 30% starting, so it's actually not bad. Bramble I generally wouldn't recommend taking, just because it's only like valuable if there's like 6 AD players in a lobby, and it is okay for A-Bomb, but I think there are better options such as like Spark, maybe Shadow Hodge, like GS, Frozen Heart. There's just like a lot of better options. And then if you're just having like one solo unit, use it, such as like Gallia or something. It's just not too much value. Zeke's is really good if you're playing Rangers. It allows you to grade to 2 Ranger and not play 4 Ranger. So even though this is like a backline item, it's like basically indirectly buffing your front line, if that makes sense, because you're able to run 2 Ranger instead of 4 Ranger, so you don't have to run the Ash Varus, even though Ash Varus is actually fine. Declaw, it's just only good in like a heavy AP lobby, but generally speaking, it's only on A-Bomb. RSC, this item is actually probably like one of the best items in the game if you already know you're playing Riven reroll or Yasuo reroll. This item is like absolutely broken on Riven Yasuo, and it's okay on Jax, but there's not really any other like AD carry that wants to use Shadow RSC, Radiant RSC. So is Radiant Titans. Radiant Titans is really good on, it's like okay on A-Bomb, but it's really good on like Aphelios Solution if you have Lifesteal, because it's almost always going to go to 25 stacks. and that's 100 AD, 100 AP, and 50 armor, 50 MR, so it's pretty good. But I think the reason I put it so low is even though it has really good late game scaling on for example, Auction 2, Aphelios 2, especially with lifesteal, it's really bad on stage 3. It's really hard to find a carry that can actually have enough carry potential on stage 3 to like fully use this item. Gargoyle, this item's like not that good, but low key you can put it on frontline. I think Last Whispers, like it's pretty good on Nocturne, but most of the AD comps you can easily tech in Auction. So this is just like a dead item that could have been like maybe a DB for more raw DPS. Gunblade is literally only good on Vel'Koz. If you play this on Heimer, you're going 8th. That's why it's so low. It's actually pretty good on Vel'Koz. It's also pretty good on Yasuo. But other than that, it's not that good. Shadow QSS is okay on probably like only Riven. I think Yasuo is safe enough with Nightbringer that you don't really need a QSS. You don't really need a defensive item. It's not bad though. Blue buff, it's just like, it's like kind of like Shojin. It's actually not bad, but most of the time it's like you already have your Shojin or you already have a tier item, and blue buff is like a lot harder to use than Shojin because a lot of the carries max mana is really high. Morello is literally only good on Kennen. Rarely ever are you taking this mid game because there's just better options. I think this item is pretty good on like Volibear and stuff, like Volibear Galio, but most of the time, like even if you have Galio mid game, there's just going to be a better item than Shadow Morello. Like it's like Shadow Sunfire is just Morello but better. ZZ Raw is another one of those tempo things. If you're win streaking early, you need the raw HP frontline. It's good. Like Locket, I would almost never take. It actually is a lot of shield. It's an entire row of shield. It's just like everyone wants to run Ivern and Volley late game, so late game it does nothing. And then like stage 3, a lot of times you're not losing because of, it's just like you lose because your team doesn't do enough damage, not because your team is not tanky enough most of the time. This item was actually bugged until recently, but I just think there's better options. So like there's the utility items are better, like a raw AP item is just going to be better. And then Shiv, like this item low key is really good in pushing a win streak mid game, but there's just better options. Like look at the other options. Like all the items are good. Like all of the radiant items are good, but I think some of them just are just like strictly out value. But yeah, I think there's like, if you just look at this tier list, the reason I didn't really want to make the video is because like there are scenarios where ZZ Rod is better than Earth Angel. There's scenarios where like IE or Last Whisper is better than DB. But generally speaking, like these are like, I think my general ranking of them, but also just keep in mind, I think I talked through some of the examples, but like just try to when you like pick an item, just think about like who is it designated for? Is my carry already going to have 3 items? Am I on pace to have like a real carry? Stuff like that. I hope this video helped, by the way. I'm probably going to release a tier list video next, but hopefully this video helped. Yeah, bet.